Hey guys, Foolish Drug Reference Kami here, and indie games are a dime a dozen, but sometimes absolute gems with passionate developers do come around. Schedule 1. I'm sure you've heard of it, you've probably even played it, and the great thing about this indie game that sets it apart from others is that the dev cares deeply about keeping his community happy. And that's not to say that the myriad of other indie games don't care about their player base, but seeing a dev not only poll their community about what an update should be, but then following through on that with the promise of the other voted options coming in the future, it's really cool, and I feel like I haven't seen a whole lot of that as of late. For those of you who aren't in the know, Schedule 1 is a game about the making, mixing, packing, selling, and profiting of various drugs, and somehow this garnered a pretty sizable community of fans, me included, who have shoved hours of their life into it. Those are hours I could have spent with Pookie or studying, and instead, I've spent those hours selling fictional drugs.
Man, I could have used that time shopping on Binishop Art on Etsy. That's right, if you're a media addict like me, but want to show your addiction off in a non-cringe way with cute and high-quality stickers and pins, then head on down to Binishop Art, spelled Beneshopart on Etsy, or just use the link down below and use code KAMI10 at checkout to get 10% off of your order. Alright, let's get back to it.
To kind of put it into perspective, within a few weeks of the game dropping, there was already a solid, pretty sizable community of people who were enjoying the game and making guides and poking around the game's files to kind of learn everything they can. You had people min-maxing early, mid, and late game strains of marijuanas and methamphetamines and other things that I don't know I can say on YouTube quite yet. And quite honestly, there is a lot of advancement in this game that a lot of the community has kind of just made trivial. When I tell you that I've seen people show in how like they can get to my progression in 10 hours of gameplay by only spending 2 hours of time by just playing smarter, I don't know if that phrasing made sense, but you understand what I mean. I've seen people completely crush what I've been able to do in like 10 hours in a matter of 2 or less, which is crazy. And it's possible, and it's doable. It's really intriguing. Gamers really like this game, and they want more from it, and that's something that the dev, Tyler, his name is Tyler, is more than willing to abide by and give. But that kind of begs the question of, what was it about Schedule 1 that makes it, quote-unquote, big air quotes, once again, big air quotes, Kami, better than other indie games? Why is this game having such a kind of longer lasting edge to it? Because the popularity of Schedule 1 reminds me a lot of Palworld. And Palworld, if you don't remember, had the same kind of like massive festering community that was making guides and giving information and poking around and stuff. But that community and the at least content that was made around that time regarding Palworld kind of fell off. Not that the game fell off or that it died, but the community itself seemed kind of just less interested. Which, side note, becoming uninterested in Palworld is kind of crazy to me because they keep having like Terraria collaborations, which is a whole other thing that I want to get into at some point, but we're going to get back to Schedule 1 now. So what is it about this game that makes it unique from other indie games that poll communities and do continual updates? Well, aside from the fact that genuinely it's different from a lot of these games because it's not just early access slop that kind of gets dropped and then not worked on, but like worked on quote unquote behind the scenes while the game that's up on early access is inherently the same. Like this game keeps getting updates. It has not stagnated at this point for any considerable length of time. And the fact that it's actually pretty good for how simple it is. Ladies and germs, this game has a very intriguing, investing, and functionally infinite gameplay loop. I got a video in the writing stages right now about indie games and how they've kind of changed and evolved and what they mean to people now. And, you know, I'm going to get more into it when it comes out, but spoiler, the gameplay loop that an indie game offers is extremely important. And the gameplay loop that Schedule 1 offers is uniquely simple and fun. I'm going to make a point, but I need you to stay with me as I'm getting there, okay? Games like Cult of the Lamb and Celeste are really good, and they're really fun and rewarding and have these really good narratives, but to really enjoy and experience the later content, you gotta have a kind of pretty solid skill level and understanding of the game. Which if you don't have a lot of time, You live a normalized life, it can take you a while to get to that level, if you do at all. Games like Phasmophobia and Dead by Daylight are pretty well designed. They're good little spook fests, but a lot of the enjoyment kind of gets boosted and elevated and really brought into full view when you're playing with friends. And side note, solo Dead by Daylight is one of the most insufferable experiences I've had in my life. Whatever genre that like Repo and Lethal Company fall into also kind of have this problem of they're really only truly fun if you're playing with people that you know and can communicate with. Not to say that you can't have impactful fun moments with randoms, but it's just they're more far and few between. And the main problem is if you have friends to play with, there's a good chance that they're not all available at the same time to hang out and play games. And with all those games, there is the question of where the skill floor and ceilings start and end. And there's a separate conversation about how those skill ceilings impact enjoyability. That is something that is not really considered when playing Schedule 1. Schedule 1 is gloriously simple. You can do and achieve just about everything there is without mixing new strains or even really getting that deep into selling more than just your starter OG Kush. Will it take you longer? Yeah. You won't have the crazy speedrun 2-hour I made insane farm strat things, but you'll get to the same place eventually if you play for long enough. In fact, now that I'm thinking about it, this game's a lot like Minecraft in the fact that you can kind of go at your own pace and do what you want. And every day can be completely different, or you can have every day be the same if you really want it to. It's a lot like Minecraft in that it's very replayable, especially within the same like save file. But it's also a little bit like Elden Ring. When I said in my Elden Ring video that Elden Ring is a game that is as hard as you want it to be. That's a lot like Schedule 1 too, because you can put a lot more on your plate than just growing and selling the green stuff. You can have fully automated farms that can and will fall into supply and money issues, just by nature of how the game's like resource economy works. You can evade or fight cops and do pickpocketing and do everything you can do in the game, or you can do none of it and just sell your weed for the day and go to bed. And honestly, I like how refreshing that is. I'm a massive fan of games that are just like, you spent your money on this, play however you want. Go ahead, go off, enjoy this game not only at your own pace, but in your own way. You could low-key just beat people in this game every day if you really wanted to. If you're like insane, you could just do that. You can sling low-level stuff and slowly build up a nice operation, or you could speed run your way into making high-level mixtures of the hard stuff and make an empire. And both of those routes, as well as everything in between, is acceptable and doable by a vast majority of the people who pick up this game. I do not think that a game about selling drugs would be one of the most accessible games that I'd play this year, but here we are. Now this is the part where I stop singing praises as highly and I talk about the, issues. And aside from like a strange controversy about like drug dealer simulator and this game being similar, which yeah, it's the same concept. There's only so many different ways you can make a blue house, I guess, like this game is different, but it's also pretty similar. That's how games in a genre work. IMO, TBH, don't PMO. But on a gameplay thing, it's worth mentioning that a big criticism is that after a certain point, for most people, it does get kind of boring. I mean, truly, if you're going the route of slowly building an empire, quote-unquote route, it's like an official route or anything, but if you do that, it does take a while and people do have real lives. And that does kind of, get impacted by the fact that the gameplay loop goes on for as long as it does, or can go as long as it does. But honestly, just take like a week off from the game, come back, get back to work, take game breaks, guys, please. In its current state, I don't see Schedule 1 going super far without major updates, which luckily major updates are coming. And this is, again, now back to singing praises, I guess. There is a community vote done about potential updates, and if, one's going to get chosen, if other ones don't win, they get brought into the game later. That's fine. And it's apparent that the community is kind of feeling this, like, gameplay loop, kind of Sisyphus up a mountain thing, because instead of asking for a new drug or for a police update, which would make the game more dynamic in different ways, we said we want the cartel update. I don't really know what the cartel update is going to entail. I hope there's some story and world building that comes with it. I think we all want to know more about Haywood and Uncle Nelson and everything else that's going on. And I think that the community choosing the cartel update over making new drugs or having harder police and more interesting police goes to show that this game is more than just a drug dealing simulator. This is a world of characters that people enjoy interacting with. And I'm super excited to try out the new update, allegedly at the end of June. That's pretty cool, dude. That's not very far. Tyler is hungry, his players are hungry, and most importantly, my cats are hungry. So be safe, have fun, and I'll see you later.